right, this video is to show you just a few ways that you can blend oil pastels, okay? So oil pastels are a lot like crayons, except for a lot waxier and greasier. So one of the things you can do with them is to be able to do a lot of color mixing. So just like you can mix colored pencil colors together in crayons, you can do the same with oil pastels. So I have a couple different brown shades. So I'm just going to kind of show you how I'm mixing those colors. I'm going to go through with my red-brown color or lighter brown color. And I'm actually not even coloring everywhere. You can notice that there's a little bit of the white showing through the background. Then I'm just going to come back over that with some of my darker brown color, and I'm just mixing those right together. I'm coloring right on top of the color that I used previously, doing some line strokes just to kind of show a little bit of texture in there. And then the same thing on the petals. I've got a couple different shades of yellow here. I even have kind of a yellow-brown that I'm going to pull out. This one's kind of a mustardy yellow color. And I'm going to use all of those on my petals. So I'm just going to start with my bright yellow. I'm going to add a little bit of the lighter yellow for some highlight in there. And then anywhere where I want a little bit of shadow or shading, that's where I can bring in some of that darker color. Maybe even right along the edges where my pencil lines are showing just a little bit. I do suggest that before you color with your oil pastels that you go back and erase your pencil lines. The reason I keep mine is so that you can see the lines on the screen. But if I were to do a final piece, I would definitely want to go back in and erase these prior to coloring them with my oil pastels. I'm going to go ahead and do one more petal here just to kind of show you one more time how I'm mixing those different shades of yellow together. Got my bright yellow. This one's my light colored yellow. This one's going to be more of a highlight. And then I'm going to come in with a little bit of shadow or shading right down here at the base of the petal with my mustard yellow. Do a little bit of darkness around the sides there, okay? Now, if I were doing a whole piece, I would go ahead and complete the sunflower, but I'm going to show you the first of the blending techniques with this one for today. So I have a piece of sandpaper and just a regular blending stub that we've used in class before. I'm going to make sure that this is clean by cleaning it on the sandpaper, and then I'm going to do a little bit of color blending using this blending stub. I'm going to start in the center with my seed part of my sunflower, and I'm going kind of in rounded circular motion with this one, just because I want to see some texture in that center where my seeds would be. And you'll notice as I start mixing these colors together, I get more of a smooth look, and all of that white from the background vanishes and stops showing through. So I'm just kind of blending until all those white spots, like there's a lot of them right here, so I'm going to keep blending here until that white part goes away. And if you see any other places that you've missed, just go back over it again and continue to mix that color together. So one option for blending technique is to use the blending stub. Okay, I'm going to clean my blending stub, or you can use the other end, and then I'm going to do another color, which would be my petals. So I'm doing the same thing here. I'm just going to come up into my petals, and I'm blending those three yellow colors together that I used when I created my petals. Now you're going to notice that I have a few little, I don't know if slivers is the word, or flakes, flakes from that oil pastel that are kind of flaking onto my paper. I don't want to just brush those off with my hand because they will smear. So once I'm done blending these colors together, I will shake it off over the trash can. That way I don't get any of those colors smeared onto my artwork. Okay, so option one is to blend your oil pastels just like I did here with a blending stub. Okay, on the second sunflower, I'm just going to show you an alternative way to do some blending. So I'm going to start out with my color mixing. Once again, I've used my light brown in my center of my sunflower. I'm going to come back in with my darker brown. I'm just adding kind of some line strokes that are curved just for texture. This is where the seed part would go on my sunflower. So mixing those colors right over the top of the one that I had before. So the darker brown's going right over the top of that lighter brown. You're going to notice that there are a lot of white spots showing through, but we're going to fix that when we blend here in a minute. I'm going to add just a few petals onto this one. I probably won't do all of them to start with, but just to kind of give you an idea on how this will look. I'm using my darker yellow, mixing light yellow right over the top of it, and then coming in from the bottom with a few shadows from my mustard colored yellow. Do just a little bit of that on the edge for some shadow as well. Going to come in with another petal right beside it. Like I said, I'm mixing those colors right over the top of each other. This one's my darker yellow. This one's kind of that mustard coming up from the bottom, and then doing just a little bit of shadow around the edge. Bright yellow again. And this one's my lightest yellow for highlight. I'm just kind of going right over the top of that. And then with my darker yellow, that mustardy yellow again, right around the edge. And then maybe a few up from the bottom, just a few line strokes to mix that. Now, I need to do my petals all the way around, but this is just a quick lesson to show you how to do some color blending. So I'm going to show you an alternative for that. So I have a plastic cup. I also have a product that many of you are familiar with. This one is called baby oil. Baby oil actually works as a great blending agent for oil pastels. You have to make sure you're using watercolor paper. I'm going to put just a little bit of that baby oil into my plastic cup, and I'm going to get a Q-tip. All right, so with my Q-tip, I'm just going to dip it into that baby oil, and the baby oil is going to work as a blending medium for the oil pastels. Okay, you'll notice that as I use my circular motion, I'm just rubbing that baby oil right over the top of the oil pastels that I've already colored on there. Doesn't take a whole lot of oil. You don't want to make your paper a soppy mess or anything. But as I'm blending that, you'll notice that these white marks that are showing through the background of the paper are starting to disappear. Now, if your Q-tip gets dry, you may have to dip it in there again. Mine just needs a little bit more. And once again, I'm kind of going in circular motions just because the seed part would have some texture and depth to it. You can go back and forth in lines if that works better for the shape that you're working on. So you'll notice that this one also blended that white background in very well. You can get a new Q-tip, or you can use the other end if you're frivolous and you want to save a few bucks. All right, so I'm going to use the other end on my petals, and same thing, I'm just using that baby oil as a blending agent and mixing those colors. This time I'm not going in the circular motion. This time I'm going more in line strokes. I want to get it as close to that brown as I can. And this is just to blend those colors together, make sure that none of the white from the background soaks through. Okay. Now, the illustration that I'm showing you or demonstrating with today is a very simple illustration. I just used a simple sunflower because it was a good way for me to show you how to mix those colors. But you can do more elaborate artwork using the same methods. Okay, so I wanted to show you a finished sample that has oil pastels that have been blended with both a blending stub and the baby oil. So here you can see my poultry picture, and there's a little bit more white showing through in here, so I might need to go back in with my blending stub or with my Q-tip and blend that in a little bit more. But this is just another example of what you can do with your artwork and blending those colors together. Okay. Then, if for any reason when you're finished you feel like something isn't standing out like you want it to, you can always go back in with your oil pastel and darken up the edges after you've blended. So if you feel like that's something you need to do, that's definitely an option as well. So, little lesson today on blending mediums. You can blend with a blending stub, you can blend with baby oil and a Q-tip to help give your artwork a nice smooth appearance. I hope those techniques come in handy with your next lesson.